CSGO didn't have many problems in the end, but at first it really did. CSGO used to be a game where you would play Inferno and the CTs would chain smokes on the B site and stop any T team from being able to exec until the last 10 seconds of the round. And the smokes were unbreakable back then. You know, they look like the spray can that you can use in paint, and you can just draw a gray blob. You could run through it, but you couldn't open it up. And it was basically pure RNG. If you got the 2 entries, you got the bomb down, you planted, you could win a T round. And if you got 4 or 5 T rounds, maybe you could win because you come back on CT side. That was what CSGO was in 2014, 2015. It was staunchly CT sided, heavily. And what that did was it actually created sort of like a Vsauce video, the way that it's all connected. I've lived long enough to find these connections. I feel like Terrence Howard right now doing math. Like, I can see things. I feel like I'm Stardust right now. We're all one molecule. What happened was, because of this, everybody said, why don't we make the smokes less powerful? Because if you make the time on the smokes less, 15 seconds and then 3 seconds of fade, and then you chain 5 smokes together, that's about 5 minutes of smokes. So the whole round is gone. And it was boring. It was smoke strike. That's what we would call it. And you'd wait behind the smokes and you sit there, and it was boring. It would be like, oh, this game is gonna die if teams figure out how to optimize this. And back then you could re-smoke B from Arch. You didn't have to drop smokes like you can now, and it was basically impossible to get a round going. It was boring, it was CT sided, it was all these problems. And people thought, why don't we make the smoke shorter? We make the smoke shorter, then it doesn't matter if the CTs chain them. The exec can still come in a little earlier. Plus now you have to make sure to refresh more often. That could be a change. But Valve did not make the smoke shorter. Maybe that affected too many other things. Instead, they made the rounds longer. They made the rounds longer, so now there's more time, but that ended up just being more waiting, okay? And then professional broadcast started to add in longer halftime breaks so that you could have ads. Then there's more timeouts because every team needs 19 timeouts per half. And then you got to a point where one CSGO map took an hour to an hour and 15. The times were getting ridiculous. That's not even counting overtime matches. Sometimes you get overtimes that go so far because it was 16K, which has now been reduced in majors so that you can win 2 rounds, crush the economy in OT. OTs used to go on and you'd get maps that were unbelievably long. And so to counter all of those changes, Valve introduced MR12 for CS2. It kind of solves everything at once, except it makes the actual gameplay a little bit more volatile, all right? And then Vitality came through and said, well, we can actually have the best season in the history of all Counter-Strike versions in this one period, in this one season, and show you how dominant we can be and show you that MR12 is viable. And that is very good. And I'm grateful for that, and I'll always reference that when we talk about MR12. But there is no denying that you do get less rifle rounds in one half if you're playing MR12 versus if you're playing MR15. Whether that's 1 or 2, that might be 10 or 20% of your rifle rounds, or your force downs. Whether it's 1 or 2, that might be 20, 30% of your rifle rounds or your force downs. That is a massive thing to do. You take that into consideration. You take into consideration how good a team is at converting 5v4 situations, how important the opening kill is. A lot of these things rest on fine margins. MR12, that's even more heightened. So yes, maybe the better team can still win more often, but now there are more options to pull off the upsets. All that's to say, for a minute, it was kind of fine. Vitality, they crushed last season, I think partially because, apart from MR12, it was one of the first times in history we've had a map pool that was so T-sided. We had Anubis in the pool, which is more T-sided than Dust 2. Vertigo was slightly T-sided for a little bit. Anubis was cast a huge shadow over those two when it came to keeping things slightly T-sided. And people throughout CSGO have always felt it's nice to have maps be slightly CT-sided. It feels like a comfort zone when you get into that second half, or, you know, the map's picked against you and you can get economy going and you can just stand in one spot and hold an angle for some of the rounds. There's something nice about it, it feels like, in general. So a lot of maps are CT-sided, a lot of people have been okay with that. In CS2, it started to get a bit more T-sided, a little bit more even through the map pool. You still had CT-sided maps. Nuke still existed. Ancient still existed. Mirage still existed. And then you get down to Dust 2 and Anubis and it got more interesting. And people didn't really like Anubis, I think, because it wasn't that T-sided. It was too T-sided, it felt like, and the CT economy was too fragile. So why am I talking about this and the map pool and how long maps take to play, and how does that matter, and why does it matter now that we've had Vitality have this amazing first season? Well, all of a sudden, with the help of a few small changes and MR12, which is the big one that we just talked about, the map pool has suddenly become very CT sided again. And I'm talking about a 10-year high. Okay, we have a lot less data to work off of, but I kept an eye on the IEM Cologne map pool. Every single map was CT sided. Every single map at Cologne was CT biased. The closest was Inferno, 51.5 to 48.5. The most drastic was Nuke at 62.5 to 37.5. This is a big event with a lot of tier 1 teams. When we look at an event that just ended in the tier 2, you have Thunderpick. That had some maps that were a lot closer, some even T-sided slightly. Nuke was played the most, and that was damn near 50-50. So it feels like this might be a tier 1 problem, but tier 1 is kind of where it all trickles down from in the scene, and this is where we're going to see the biggest tournaments getting played. So I'm focusing on this a little more now. Call me biased. I am someone who's casting a lot of these games specifically, so it's standing out. But when I see the Mongols make an 11-1 comeback on Aurora and they win the pistol and in the cast, I'm entertaining the thought of an upset. I'm very acutely aware of exactly how CT-sided things feel right now. So why is that? What are the changes besides MR12 that are just creating the volatility and making chances of comebacks happen and creating more CT chances? Well, at first it was nades dropping, and this seems like a pretty innocuous change, but it makes it very difficult to count grenades. More relevant on CT side than it is on T side. Very relevant for T-side players. We saw this triple nade on Major on the CT side comeback for the Mongols into underpass. There are places where you can store grenades that the Ts will not know about that you can use in tactics to win you entire rounds. Again, we talk about how important that 5v4 is. Dust 2, when the nade dropping record was set, over 1,000 damage from utility in 1/2 from Alexi B, now nicknamed the Grenadier. That took place on Dust 2 because you could cache HEs in CT spawn and use that versus cat plays. And it felt like for a second, and Kerrigan even said at this moment, this game is going to get way too CT-sided and it's all over. That didn't end up being the case, not on that one change alone. But now that people were complaining a little bit about Anubis, maybe it was feeling like the map pool is a little bit too T-sided in general, I would argue we had a really good balance, because now Valve introduced a CT bonus, a kill reward, $50 for each player every time a T gets killed. That's a huge amount of bank that gets made over the course of a map, over the course of a series, over the course of a major, over the course of a tournament. This is a big buff because it's the fragility of the CT economy that is the main way in for a T side in general. But now you strengthen the ability to streak. On CT side, it's very important to streak because all your habits, your incendiary, the diffuse kit you have to buy, your M4 is more expensive than AK, everything is just more expensive. And if you have to save all of the advantages that make a map CT sided for you, let's say on overpass, in op, a lot of utility, the ability to block, make sure that you can control rotations. You need money to make those happen. When you have it, then it feels impossible for the Ts to do anything. So now the CT economy has been buffed. The FAMAS got buffed. Now that was kind of quiet, but now the low buys are getting a little bit stronger. The chance to buy them and the value of a gun in between an MP9 and an M4 is higher. So there's been a lot of small changes that have helped the CT side out a lot. And again, even though MR12 proved to be viable in this last season, when a map pool is very biased, whether it's T side or CT sided, there is more emphasis on pistol rounds. And famously, as Sean Garris once said, pistol rounds are not real CS. They have their own stat on HLTV for win percentage. Pistol rounds are rounds that you buy half armor, you have light grenades, you do not play rifle strats. Yes, you can do cool strats on pistol rounds, but let's be real, you have less capacity to go for fakes. There's more emphasis on simple headshots. There's no head armor to buy you extra time. It's harder to cover a map in general. You are not playing the same game as you do on a rifle round. All the same biases don't exist. And if T side is going to be particularly hard. You know, if it's really you get on T side and then mollies got buffed, then mollies are a little bit too strong and ops are a little bit too strong and everything like that. Well, on pistol rounds, you don't have to deal with that at all. On pistol round, you get to group up, hit shots, and it's going to come down to who hits the headshots, period. So with pistol rounds in the mix, MR12, the CT lean being so heavily favored, what we can predict for the second half and the second season. It's one of the most CT-sided metas ever. And it feels like we've gone back to the beginning of CSGO in that sense, just to see how it goes. I'm kind of interested. Donk said he likes it. I gotta say, Donk wasn't even alive when Cold Zero was doing the jumping up 4K over on the B side of Mirage on that massive CT comeback at Columbus. He didn't even know about the 312 Olaf pass boost comeback for Fnatic on CT side of Overpass. The boost helped. There were lots of CT comebacks though. And if it wasn't for pistol rounds, I would be more energetic and happy about the idea of it leaning this heavily. My main gripe, however, is the fake leads that we're going to see in the second season and the fake height that's going to come with the comebacks. And I have to recoil a little bit as a caster because the number one thing you don't want to do is talk about how much a pistol matters. Nothing shows that you've got like nothing else to talk about. You're so boring that you've got to bring up how important a pistol round is. But now it's something you have to address. It must be addressed. I see the comeback happening 11-1 Mongols when they win the CT pistol. They got a real chance for themselves. Spirit just did that to Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro just did that to MIBR on Overpass here at the Blast Bounty. This is not something that just happened randomly and it will keep happening. Now what we're going to get is we're going to get some classic major matches with massive comebacks where teams look like they're absolute booty cheeks on T side and suddenly geniuses on CT side and make a good comeback and the other team choke, and whoever played T side second is the choke team, even though the first team only got one round and got 20 kills on their entire T-Hap. It's split between them, and there's one player on the other side that has more kills than the other team combined, and then they switch over, they only get 3 kills on their T side. That's what we're going to have to do on repeat over and over again for a lot of big matches coming up. And if you're just watching CS for the first time, it actually might be kind of exciting because you're like, damn, this team stood no chance. I almost turned it off, but I stood there and oh my god, I was telling all my friends I watched this amazing comeback. Well, now that's going to happen every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in a tournament, no matter what. So I think it's about to get hella CT sided, and I think a little CT sided, good. A lot CT sided, a little too volatile, a little too much emphasis on the pistols, a little too much RNG with MR12, a little bit too much. I think we had a situation where if all of these changes came through, but Anubis was not switched with Overpass, suddenly the map pool wouldn't be so incredibly CT sided based on the maps alone. Anubis might even be more palatable. What if Anubis was less T sided? I think it would be more enjoyable for people, but it never got the chance. Just like Hooksy never got the chance to play with mobs, Anubis never got the chance to be a little bit more CT sided to see if we'd like it more. Overpass is one of the most, if not the most notorious CT sided map ever. Now all the changes beyond that are making the whole game more CT sided. What is going to happen now for this season of CS2? And will we get epic games that we look back on and go, well, we got those games, that's gonna be worth it? Because I think we will, but we're also going to have a lot of people looking like fools in one half, geniuses in a second half, and leads that really don't matter until the pistols won. Let me know if you're with me. Let me know if you were around 10 years ago and you remember what that was like. And let me know if you're still excited for that and you just want to try something new. I'm curious.